Hi, welcome to One for the Road, where we navigate sobriety, recovery, and life in general. Tune in as we share our experience and opinions while answering any questions you may have. My name's Marissa. This is my co-host, Judy.
Hello.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, notify, do all the stuff. Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Maybe it'll be last week by the time we post this. Who knows? Hashtag JFT guy is going to be on our show, gentleman from Narcotics Anonymous. It's going to be sharing his story. So really excited to hear that. We're really excited to hear that. Judy, you have a plug for us. Give us the tea.
Give us the tea. That's the funny joke. Yes, we have a new friend, Jason. He is trying to raise money for people in Ukraine who have lost everything. So he is got a special hand blended tea. It's a sunflower blend with other stuff. Can't remember. $10 a bag. You can find him on TikTok under Nordic Wolf. Or the coffee shop is the Green Salmon Coffee Company. It's in Oregon. I will post all the links to his information in the description for this video. And if for some reason you have trouble getting a hold of him and decide that you'd like to contribute, you can also email us and that will also be posted and I'll get the information to him. Thank you for your support.
Perfect. Wonderful. Buy some tea.
I am not the announcer, so
it's okay. It's all right. You did well. You did well. I'll give you pointers later. No problem. So we're on our last part of our 3-part series, and it is I feel like I need to remind people that like we are not experts in any sort of way, right? Like these are just like our thoughts, our opinions, our experiences. Like we're limited to what we know at this point in our lives. Okay.
For sure.
Huge disclaimer. So today, in the last part that we want to talk about is like romantic relationships in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I know straight out the gate, no surprise to anybody, like you and I have
different stories.
Polar opposite experiences. So take it away.
Well, I don't even think nobody got time for this shit. For real. Like, I mean, I'm old. I've been here for a minute, right? Like the bulk of my relationships have not been in sobriety at all. It was whatever. I mean, my story, we talked about this before, right? Lots of periods of dry time. I have 4 kids. So of course I didn't drink or use drugs when I was pregnant. And for periods of time, I mean, I think there was like there's been periods of like 3 years, right? Like over the course of all of my life on this planet, where I just didn't drink. I wasn't the happiest person, and when shit hit the fan, I would go out to, want to go do that stuff. And then the ball would get rolling. But, I wasn't my best version of myself. And so romantic relationships for me failed. And that's not even to say that people got tired of my shit. I got tired of things. And so I wasn't the best version of myself. That's not how I showed up for those relationships. When I got into recovery, I got married to somebody who was in recovery as well. Which kind of seems like a perfect little ideal,
Sure.
Right.
Sounds like a great idea. Sounded good at the time, officer.
But here's the thing. Okay, and so ultimately, that did end in a divorce. I will say this, I don't have really a lot of relationship advice. I know what I like to see happen, right? Sure. I know what I've done in the past, right? Demanding my way, never being a compromising sort of person. I'm wicked with words, like I don't, not that I can't knock you out, but I don't need to, and I used those tools. And so things didn't end well, and it's not surprising. The truth of the matter is that in recovery, though, I did try to, I got a microphone issue here. I did try, to practice certain principles. And it was I'm not even trying to point a finger, right? It was just met with resistance. Let's just say it didn't work. But, like today, I just show up different, you know, through all of these relations for this whole relationship series, I show up different for friendships and for family and for any romantic relationships. I show up different. I know what it means today, the true meaning of selflessness, right? The true meaning of compromise, the true meaning of what it looks like to not do something, to do something and want a reward, or when I don't get that reward, because that was a big thing for me. I would always put myself in that self-sacrificing position and then, be pissed that I didn't get that reaction of like a thank you or what, or it didn't look how I imagined it would always look. And so I show up different today, simply because I've practiced this stuff, and then by no means perfect. Geez, God knows I'm not, you know, but I'd like to think today when I do stuff, I do it with good intentions, right? And I'm not necessarily looking for a reward. And I try to go into relationships today with zero expectation, in so much as, because zero expectation looks like I can show up as my best self, versus having those expectations and then you don't even know what they are, and now I'm beating you up and you don't even know why. So I mean, I am by no stretch of the imagination some relationship expert, dude. My life is riddled with, you know getting together and breaking up, and long-term relationships, it's not, it's not the case. I mean, things, 5 years, 7 years, all of those things. However, I just show up different today, and that's to recovery, right? I mean, you, my dear friend, though, are in a relationship for these last 5 years. So why don't you tell us what it looks like for you?
It's a hot fucking mess on a daily basis, and I'm usually the culprit. But whatever, like someone's got to do it. Yeah, I got sober and I was single. Trust me, I was so single because I was like, someone would have choked me out. You know what I mean? And
Well,
and for a good reason, right? Like nobody would have blamed you. Yeah, so I was single and I got into recovery, and I heard a lot of like, wait 1 year until you start dating.
get to know yourself.
Well, and I had someone tell me, like, before you let someone stick their dick in you, right? That was the, sorry, mom, dad, whoever the fuck is watching.
Yeah, whoever's watching,
like,
this is not a
that
kid
was
program. Right.
that was the like it needed to be said in this way, right? Because relationships are always have been one of my biggest hangups. Those romantic relationships, they will build me up or they will fucking completely tear me down.
For sure.
Right. And it's what I allow, right? It's what I've always allowed. And so I was told, if you want to get sober, like, and you want to stay sober, and then you want to have a meaningful relationship at some point in your recovery, like, you might want to do some work on you and take the year and figure out who the hell you are. And I'm not saying just be, but like, don't sleep with anyone either, right? Because here's the deal. When I'm randomly sleeping with people, I'm still catching feelings that I can't just drink away.
For sure.
I got something to tell you. There's no bigger connection than like your body being inside of my body, right? Like, there's no bigger connection, right? And the connection comes with the expectation and all that stuff. And so I did it, right? I did it. And I met somebody about 8 months into recovery who's also in recovery. And it was the hardest 4 months of my life to just be friends with somebody, it was so hard. Okay. And I'm still with that person today, but I will tell you what happened with 8 months of solid sobriety under my belt. When that person came into my life and they piqued my interest physically first, of course.
Sure.
I knew myself well enough to know that like I needed to set this thing up on some good footing, on some solid foundation, and I had to be honest about who I was and what I was trying to do, and I let him know, like, yeah, I really like you, but I can't date you until I have a year sober. And I can't sleep with you until I have a year sober. And none of this stuff can happen. And he was like, okay, cool. So like we'll
Wow.
just talk. We'll just do a lot of talking. We just talked. And the amazing thing that happens when you're just talking is you actually get to know somebody.
Yeah,
You get to know somebody and you get
sure.
to judge like, is this somebody that I want to like see
Sleep
again
with.
tomorrow or sleep with or whatever. And totally different experience than what I had had in my previous relationships. um we learned really early on, both being in recovery, that like self self development, right, like was huge for us, right? And so we both had to be willing to like hold space for each other to grow as individuals, right? Because people are ever evolving,
Sure.
whether you're in recovery or not, you're ever evolving. And if it's my belief that like if you aren't in a safe space to like become who you need to become, we're going to have some problems. And although it wasn't easy, I I will focus on other people when my life gets too hard and I don't want to do the work I have to do. So
Mhm.
having a distraction there can become really easy. And I knew that recovery was going to be a lifelong process. I knew that it was going to be contingent upon me continuously learning some stuff about myself, right? Like constantly like just going to the next level. And I needed to have someone that would like hold that space for me. And I'm really fortunate, right? And
Yeah.
we've held that space for each other, not always perfectly at times, but it's 5 years later and we're doing okay. And there was a relapse in there on his part. And that's what terrified me the most, right? Like I had to know that my recovery was so solid that even if he went back out, I would be okay, because usually, right, that's my history. If
Sure.
you're going back out, I'm going back out with you. And he went back out for 6 months, and um I had to stay sober for me, because my life was about me, and I contribute a lot of like that to that first year of sobriety, like falling in love with myself and giving myself the time to be sober and realizing that I wanted to do this thing. And man, no man, job, no job, like
Yeah.
I stay sober no matter what. And I knew in the first year when I did therapies and all sorts of stuff, I found out that useful piece of information about myself, that relationships were usually my demise. And I'm not alone in that. I'm
No.
not alone in that.
Yeah. I mean, and that was the thing, even for me, it was always a super valid excuse, right? The relationship's in the pot. So might as well go out and have a drink or something, for a week or so, and so I get that. But, and you hit on a couple points, and that's what it is like, getting to know yourself in recovery, right? Because I didn't know who I was then, before the whole sober thing. I didn't know who I was. And so there was constantly that searching and looking and, trying to fill up all that stuff with sex, with drugs, rock and roll, the whole thing. Right. And,
Men are an addiction too.
and for
Relationships, love,
sure.
it's the worst drug out there, just so you all know.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so, and that's kind of what it is. And so, doing this thing and having this, in recovery relationship, and because it's also very hard. What struck me is that you said like the safe place, right? Like, to me it always seems that a relationship, and this might be a lofty idea, right? But I mean, I know you and I know your significant other, is like to
Mhm.
be able to see those not so pretty parts, and not go anywhere. And I'm not going to beat you over the head with that later, and that's not my experience. My experience is not yours. When I get to that vulnerable thing and I'm going to let you in and do that thing, and then I let you see all of these not so great things, you know, those became weapons, because even though we were both in recovery, one wasn't really well, you know, and so and you would never know. I mean, years and years of sobriety doesn't necessarily make a person well. and so that was my experience, and so I did, I've taken this, it's almost a year, and I am learning those things about me. And that's why I know I show up different, even just in friendships and all of those things. I let people see those things. And I know that there are people out there who can hold that space, like you said, and not use me as a weapon against me. Because quite honestly, I'm my own worst enemy to begin with. You're not going to tell me any shit about myself that I haven't already said or thought or beat myself up about. And so,
I do it better than you, right? I beat myself up better than you ever can. If you think those are good words, listen to what I got.
Listen to what I got going on.
Yeah,
for sure. And so I think that it's interesting, right? I'm just always so floored how we're always on two very different things, but for sure, I think that that's the thing. It's about, if I know me, then I can get to know you, and if I'm willing to be open, then I'm willing to hold space for the other guy, and hoping that you're going to show me that you can do that for me too, because it's not, it's not about dishes, and it's not about laundry, and it's not about those things.
It is.
Well, yeah, right. But there's more to that story. It's about respect, and it's about a common courtesy, right? Like if I would do that thing for stranger on the street, why am I not doing it for the person I live with? And I say that because I was not that person. I was mad, or I was hurt, or I was whatever. And so now I'm withholding that common courtesy. So there's things I learned, and I do believe that everything, comes down there's a reason, right? There's a reason. I don't always need to know it, but there's a reason.
Yeah.
And that was learning some stuff, I don't know. Yeah. I don't see, this is what I mean. I don't have a lot to throw in on this thing. I had an announcement. I had an announcement about tea and and some breakup.
Yeah. Well, but here's the deal. Like I again was, because I had told people when I was asked what I thought like my biggest downfalls were going to be, and what I said romantic relationships, and I was young. I was young when I got sober, not married, no children. That is stuff that I desire. Still don't have, probably a little closer than I once was, but like I wanted those things. So I knew I would have to, those weren't things that I was going to avoid, in order to stay sober. And I was told things like, you can only love someone as much as you love yourself.
For sure.
And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, of course I love myself. And then it was explained like, people who love themselves don't drink themselves stupid every day. People who love themselves don't put themselves in the situations you're putting, and that's the case. And, people who love themselves work on themselves, and they, are honest with themselves. And that was nothing, and it all starts with self for me, right? Like I think I've been able to have a relatively normal, manageable, good relationship, because I have been able to do this recovery thing. I've managed it, and I've done whatever it takes like to stay sober. And I also kind of do whatever it takes to stay in my relationship too, within reason, right? Like I'm not saying, but I have a partner that there's a lot of mutual respect there. There's a lot of admiration there, like I had never been with anybody like that. And those things are really important to me. I didn't know they were important to me until I had them in my face. And I was like, oh yeah, this is really nice. But when it comes to just, I've seen a lot of people, get sober, get into relationships right away, do the marriage thing, do the baby thing, do the house thing, do all this stuff. And then all that's gone, and they're all drunk within a short time.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that it was advised to me to wait that year. Right. And don't get me wrong. I look around and I compare myself, and I'm like, we've been together 5 years, or I've been sober for this long, and how come we don't have that? Well, sometimes it's about going the distance, and sometimes slow and steady is really the way. And I fucking hate saying that. And it's
slow and steady,
and I'm putting it on there, and slow and steady. But here it is. I've shown results, right? Like it it really produces some results, and and not letting myself become second to anybody else. I
Right.
don't let myself become second to my partner, right? Like I do think less of myself these days, but I don't think of myself less. Like I I always have this thing like, am I working on some aspect of my life? Am I doing things for myself? Am I loving myself? Like, am I investing in myself? And
For sure.
because I can do that, I can understand when you need to do that,
Yeah.
and that's a pretty incredible thing.
For sure. And I think that there's a difference, right? When you talked about self-love, like loving yourself before you can love somebody else. And, us thinking that we used to love ourselves, but we did all of these terrible things to ourselves, and the thing is that was selfish. And there's a difference, and I didn't know that different. I didn't know that there was a difference. Like when I would take time for myself before, it was to drink myself stupid and do that kind of thing,
Sure.
that was not loving myself. Loving myself today looks a lot different as well. That was all selfish behavior. It was not self-love. And I think that is, I would never have known that if I didn't do this thing. If I
Yeah.
didn't get into recovery and practice this stuff every day, I would never have known the difference, and so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to know this, and that, and like I said, showing up different, what a blessing that is, right? Because I can walk away and I can stay in and I can do all of those things with a clear conscience today,
Yeah.
for sure.
I agree. I love it. Yeah. Um, Always interested to hear what people have to say about relationships and
Especially
recovery.
this one. Listen, man, I need to know the tea on that.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh God.
You started a you
Uh,
started a trend.
I did. I did. So leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know about your romantic relationships in recovery. What are some requirements? What are some things that you've learned? Just let us know. I'm kind of pulling this one solo because this one over here.
Listen, it is what it is, man. But
I'm just
hey,
kidding.
listen, let's check back in a couple months. You never know what this girl has up her sleeve.
That's right. Oh God. Oh God. So
They're
yeah,
all-
like, subscribe, share, comment, notify, do all the stuff, get the tea from Green
Get the tea.
Salmon.
Green
get the
Salmon
pomegranate
Coffee
tea,
Company.
the sunflower tea.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in our bio and everything. JFT guy is gonna be here tomorrow, or he was already here last week. We don't know when this is posting.
Yeah.
So
This should be coming out on Monday, so it'll be next week for more
so
work.
yeah, he will have already been by the time you hear this.
Yeah.
Or maybe I don't know. Anyways,
Who knows?
keep
Whatever.
coming back.
Keep coming back.
Wow. That's all for today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification button so you know when new posts are coming up. Keep coming back.